collecting on behalf of the creditors is a tributary tax. That's the stipulation. You must put that on the record because you're in agreement. Stipulation and agreement is the characteristics of those in the private. They make stipulations and agreements. Therefore, they're not dealing with an argument from a point of dishonor. They're renegotiating, they're recontracting, they are confirming, clarifying through stipulations that they're in agreement. I'm in agreement that you owe my Moorish estate. I'm not denying that. I'm in agreement that whatever the creditors get, they have to collect the taxes from those that are using our stuff. Yeah, it's starting to sink in now. Moors, I keep trying to warn you. You must study thyself. Study thyself. Okay, and the very last one, now we're going to go back to the public. The public can only deal with procedures, which means in the private only deals with substance. Because anything that's in the public lacks substance because it's only in procedure. It's form. The public is only form without substance. So the private deals with substance because it's substance over form. What's real should not be subservient to something that's not real. I hope this makes this a little bit clear to you guys. I hope this kind of cleared some stuff up. This is why you need a notary. You know why, Moors, you need a notary? You need a notary because when you're in court dealing with attorneys that present their arguments, which is a presumption, neither side can prove anything. So the judge has the discretion as to who wins. As long as there is controversy, the judge has immunity. When there is stipulation and agreement, the judge is no longer immune if he intercedes. There are elements to a stipulation. See, whenever you put a stipulation, that means no party can argue or refute it. And also, when you make a stipulation, no party can offer supporting evidence. Nobody can dispute the fact that you're a Moor. They can't say you're not a Moor. Matter of fact, under the Declaration of Human Rights, one has a right to a nationality and also have a right to change his nationality. They can't tell you you're not a Moor. No party can offer supporting evidence that says you're not. Now, this is the big kicker, y'all. When you make stipulations, no judge can consider it or change it, or it is a reversible error. If you're a Moor and you say under your allodial estate that it's a tributary tax, and the IRS is collecting on behalf of the creditors, who's the biggest creditor here? But my ancestors who gave you the paper, the computer, it's a whole list of stuff that we are owed a royalty for because we gave it to the world. They're using your stuff. But you're buying your stuff from them. It don't become your stuff till you pay it with fiat. That has no intrusive value in the aspect of accounting. See how messed up that is? See why they got all these colorful courts, though? Because we don't want to be responsible either. Well, I just want it. It's kind of sound like you want something for nothing. You're going to have to be responsible. You're going to have to take a stand on your square. Quit playing. Let me tell you another reason why the notaries are important. See, the notaries have functions. The notary functions are, they are here to administer oaths. Hold on, wait a minute. What if I'm a Moor and I want to do business in the public? You mean to tell me I can actually have a notary in the public, or what they call a public notary, administer an oath that will bestow upon me the ability to do what I want to do in commerce? Of course they can, if your mind can conceive it. So a man thinketh, so he becomes. Let me give you another function of a notary. A notary's functions are to attest and certify by his hand or official seal certain classes of documents in order to give them credit and authenticity in foreign jurisdictions. If you are a Moor, who taxes are being collected by an agency, then a notary can give credit and authenticity to your foreign jurisdiction, to their system that is governing their citizens. As a Moor, you're not under that jurisdiction, thus makes it foreign. In other words, you need a notary to attest and certify by his hand and official seal that you are a Moor and it is a tributary tax in order to give your commerce activity credit and authenticity in that foreign jurisdiction. That's why you need a notary. Let me give you another function of a notary. A notary function is to take acknowledgments of deeds and other conveyances and certify the same. Whoa. Let me get this right, Brother Bay. You mean to tell me a notary public can take acknowledgments of deeds and conveyances and certify the same? I listen to a lot of Moors. They keep not. They're very good at following directions. But a lot of Moors don't want to read the obvious most. It's not even up for debate. Quit trying to look for these Luciferians to confirm what they already know. The problem is you don't know. Because if you know, then you wouldn't be soft shoeing around the real truth and issues. A notary can take acknowledgments of deeds and other conveyances and certify the same. Now here's the kicker, family. Notaries can also do what? Another function of a notary is to perform certain official acts. I'm going to stop right there. Didn't you just read in the public you can't act because you're irresponsible? Well, the only person that can act under certain official capacities is a notary. A notary can perform certain acts, chiefly in what? Commercial matters. If you're talking about money, if you're talking about contracts, if you're talking about anything in commerce, a notary can perform certain official acts chiefly. That means mainly. That means most of the time a notary is going to act in a commercial matter. Let me give an example of a matter, such as the protesting. Hold on. Because I don't want you to miss this. Hold on, wait a minute. A notary can act mainly in commercial matters such as protesting of notes. Federal Reserve notes. Protesting of notes and bills. You know, what you call a bill, or the bill too high. They can protest that noting of foreign drafts and marine protests in case of loss. Guess what, family? Back in the biblical days, the law of the land was an eye for an eye. Now, with that being said, family, who remember from this morning's briefing, the Code of Hammurabi? That's where the law of the tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye came from. One of the oldest commercial codes in existence. I listened to that, and it brings me back to a frame of mind a few years back where this information, I was asked by a lot of organizations and groups on my take on certain aspects of the administrative process. And it took everything in me to hold my happiness inside and be very quiet and very still and just let everyone kind of get their thoughts outward. And then once everybody finished putting their thoughts out there, I remember this broadcast because I strategically took a breath and I had to acknowledge the fact that if you don't understand who you are in commerce, then the rules have already been written for you.
A student put me on to something yesterday that I will give him credit for. This is my guy that does my IT, Brother Lamont. If you're listening, peace and love, family. Um, he, while we were in our engagements that we normally, discuss from time to time, he kept referring. He said, "Mr. Bay, um, a couple of practitioners told me to take a look at this particular movie that I'm actually going to call a documentary. I want you to take a look at it." And after he said it about two or three times, I may uh, speak a whole lot faster than I think, or let me say it another way. I speak a whole lot slower than I think. Um, After I heard what he was saying about two or three times, I took his advice, and right before class yesterday, I watched a portion of that documentary. So much so that after class, I made sure me and the Empress took a look at it from a documentary standpoint, and it brings me back to this perception here. A lot of individuals are going through their day to day with the hopes of being the best they can be. We live in a construct that's based in an illusion. You spend the majority of your time trying to perfect whatever claim and or ownership in that illusion, only to find out that when you come to the end of the proverbial road, you realize that the most precious commodity on earth is time. The question will be, how did you spend that time? What occupied your time? And did your time benefit others? This particular motion picture was, and you might know what I'm about to say when I tell you who executively produced it. This was one that was done by Michelle and Barack Obama. They played a role in the executive direction of this particular movie that I'll call a documentary, and it was very interesting. And after class, I'll give you the name of it. But it brought me to a it brought me back to this. I was instructed not to talk to the public about things that could violate the Privacy Act of 1974. But because I do share a nationality, they cannot take away customs and traditions. So during the eve and prerequisite of retrograde is the only time of year where I can say what I'm going to say without any filters pertaining to such. This is why we started out the briefing this morning in this direction, and this is where I'm going to uh, end the sundown ceremony with this series of closing remarks here. For a very long time, we as Aboriginals have enjoyed and also have been exploited simultaneously. We've enjoyed and also been exploited because of our refusal to take our rightful place among the affairs of man. We have taken into a certain level of perception there are comforts that provide more of a benefit than standing astute. So much so that others, in order for them to gain favoritism globally, they wear your Moorish fez in secret. They use your allodial titles in secret, yet denying to you the same. And I find it on the 100-year anniversary of the initial Bretton Woods Agreement, this same perception still stands true today. If you were to take 10 of your closest associates who identify themselves by color other than ethnicity, these 10 individuals, to your surprise, may find it more beneficial to take a benefit from their oppressor than to stand and to fight and to labor for freedom. If I announce in my network of social, what they call media, that we're going to talk about 10,000 ways to perfect a UCC, then I will probably get 10,000 viewers and 10,000 hits, because that is a frequency that resonates with so many people. But if the stipulation is that the only way that works is that you have to master the concept of self, you have to understand that there are balances in the universe, and everybody has a role to play, then those same 10,000 viewers, I will probably lose them, because they don't want to deal with that. They want to get a benefit from the oppressor. Some of your very own will convince you that that sounds good, but that won't work. You remember the scene in Django where after Django killed all the slavers and opened the door? What did the slaves do? Anybody remember that scene in Django? What they did after he killed all the slavers? Like, what happened at the end of that movie? You know, did the slaves take up arms and they went and spread the good news? Or did one of the brave slaves grab the door and closed it? They stood there, went to the door that was the opposite end of freedom, and slammed it shut. I want you to understand that this information that you have so diligently steward over is life and death to those people. It's life or death. What do they always tell you? They always tell you that what you don't know can't hurt you. You know, that's what they say. What we say is what you don't know could kill you. I find it interesting that for 5,000 years, during the winter solstice, certain families gathered to fellowship and to build and to strategize and to usher in the new order of business. But yet, during that same time frame, for our people here and what we represent in the so-called Americas, supposedly and allegedly, more of my people will sit around the Yule log, so to speak, and tell me about the latest and greatest sports figures and entertainers and this, that, thus, and the third. And while entertaining as it may be, it really, like a splinter in my mind, churns as to the true condition of our people. During that frame of mind, when I was talking about the public and private, It was a Moorish brother who took out the time to point me in this direction. It was a Moorish sister who helped me perfect a lot of the things that's being done in this regard. It were those that understood what things were versus what it wasn't. And I've got many a stripes, along the way. A lot of ridicule along the way. I lost a lot of family along the way. What I did learn that all that was stripped away, the Most High restored. So that was the shedding away of the old to make way for the new. And in this new mind, I still find myself really wondering if everyone really has conceived the true work that's at hand. In one hand, about 3 years ago, a little over 2, 3 years ago, a lot of our people in certain territories and states, this is not something I've read, it's something I know because I have the case law, I have the arbitration cases to prove it. A lot of our brothers and sisters find themselves faced with an opportunity, at least it seemed. But this opportunity really became a cast net of sorts. It was like a drag net of sorts. It was like a trap of sorts. They exploited the very thing that they knew our brothers and sisters had no clue really what it was about. We're gonna seg into this, but I'll have to say it this way so the algorithm will be forgiving. Most of our people who looked at the opportunity to receive money from an institution who was mandated to collect taxes on behalf of the Moorish estate, in my opinion, fell for the banana in the tailpipe, because if you acquired a PPP loan and then decided it was a good idea to take said PPP loan and then start a business and then set up payroll, then I told everyone, and I'm not bragging, this is really sad, I cringed because I knew that I understand what they're saying. I understand why they understand it. I know why they want to do what's there, because of the benefit. But again, this same benefit is coming from the same group who oppresses, who must oppress. And when right on the eve of the winter solstice, I sat with a group similar like this, and I said, quote unquote, until you figure out the difference between the public and private, you're going to be swinging left and right in the dark and hitting nothing. They get away with what they do because they tell you what they're going to do before they do it, and you volunteer into that, making it a contract, even though it's it's not right. I'll use plain English. It's not. The contract isn't right, but because you can send it to that not right contract, they're going to uphold it. They have a right to uphold a contract that's not right because you had no business taking a benefit in the fraud. And then now, because the fraud is going a different way, you now want to scream, it's not my fault. If you have a bottle of water or a glass of water and it's 99% water, 1% poison, is that water safe to drink? So it's a splinter in my mind that yet you can justify taking the benefit. The penalties are severe. Somebody give me an example in the chat of what deems you as uninheritable. What makes you uninheritable? If you were talking about estate planning, give me an example in your own words in the chat of what would deem you as an uninheritable member of that estate. What do you have to have on your jacket, on your record, that makes you uninheritable? Oh, I'm loving that answer. I can't just have one brave brother. Come on now. I know we got more folks that ain't asleep now. Not knowing who you are. Lack of nationality. Do you understand that under the family of nations, without a nationality, you're not even considered part of being the human, you're not even part of the human race without a nationality. I want you to let that sink in. I want that because outside of the retrograde is UCC, is process this, is that, I get it. We gotta play the narrative, do what we gotta do. Everybody picking up what I'm putting down. But this time in this class, I get to take the gloves off and speak to the core of what the problem is and the tools that we can use to fix this. They have a comfort in using your appellations in secret and denying you the same in commerce. There's no secret that these family offices of a certain capacity are all held around the winter solstice. Those are the ones you want to make. You might learn something. You might see something. You might hear something. And if you're really feeling what I'm saying, you might feel something. The ability for these corporate fictions to now reclassify gold as a tier 1 asset should have been, in my opinion, on every newspaper in the supposed and alleged Americas. But for some reason, I know what Pittsburgh scored last week. Then that piece of information. I know all this other information or data. And I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying that, again, if that is the order of the day, and I've been given some other data, they have a comfort. And if I've been drinking the Kool-Aid too long, you wake up and start to want to get off the boat, I'm going to do like in the movie Django. I'm going to close the door. Before I read this and before I show this, everybody keep an open mind. And for any young men that's under the age of 50, I do this with kindness, with passion, and with a sense of urgency. The world has a comfort in us not knowing that if another black and brown is being persecuted in another town or another city or another state, another territory with imaginary lines, and as long as we can identify that that's not me, I don't know who they are, and I don't have anything to do with that, the algorithm is in autopilot. I'm about to share my screen, so bear with me while I do so. And again, I do this. Usually I'm not allowed to share this information in this open tenor. This is the Law of Nations. And from the excerpt, you see this is chapter 3. This is the book of war. Every man and woman who is in commerce that don't understand why things are happening the way they're happening, it's because you have failed to understand what I'm about to show you. Book 3 of War, Chapter 1 of War, its different kinds, and the right of making war. Subsection 1. War is that state in which we prosecute our right by force. War is that state in which we prosecute our right by force. We also understand by this term the act itself of the manner of prosecuting outright by force, but it is more conformable to general usage and the more proper in a treatise on the law of war. To understand this term in the sense we have annexed to it in Statute 136. Subsection 2 discusses public war. What is a public war? A public war is a war. Public war is that which takes place between nations or sovereigns, and which is carried on in the same name of the public power and by its order. This is the war we have. This is the war we are here. Y'all didn't catch it. This is the war we are here to consider. The author is telling you public war is why they are there. But they must now bring forth the antonym. Private war. Private war, or that which is carried on between private individuals, belongs to the law of nature, properly so called. We can do an entire lesson in trusteeship about public war. We can do an entire lesson for 6 months about private war. But under the Privacy Act of 1974, by no means is any notary allowed to express that unless the attestation and jurating warrants international attention. See, if the contract is only affecting one member of the family, and the other members of the family are perfectly content as being slaves, is that a public war or a private war? Put that answer inside the chat. As a practitioner of notarial law, upon your ability to attest and jurat to said documentation or conveyance, if it's discovered that the petitioner is a victim in a war of sorts, but let's say for laughs and giggles, that practitioner, that petitioner, that requester, that creditor is a one-man show. What kind of war is that? Put that answer inside the chat. What is that? Because this is the crust. This is the bull in the room. This is why we're here. All of the stuff we're doing, arbitration, UCCs, these are just instrumentations, because until you gain your freedom, you are a political prisoner of war. Since nobody told you, since nobody failed to enlighten you, it is my civic duty to inform all practitioners that until that revocation of election is in place and that you understand it completely, the system is driven to force you into servitude as a political prisoner. This is why they never did away with slavery. It's called a peculiar institution. Because if they give you a certain status, then it's okay for you to be in servitude. So we got a lot of work to do. This is as far as I'm going to go in this direction because it gets very different as the algorithm continues. And from previous classes, I've learned from my mistakes that I will leave things in a certain capacity to otherwise. But at sundown, I have to give you why we're here. Now, let's talk about the institutions. The institutions that you're dealing with are governed by a certain set of rules. What I'm going to show you now is going to come from the private English manual. What I'm about to show you now is going to come from the English private law manual. English private law manual. There we go. And I am reading from page 856. And this is going to talk about the powers of trustees of declared trust. The powers of trustees of declared trust. You should listen as if your life depended upon it, because what you don't know could be fatal. The powers of trustees of declared trust stands as follows. To understand the institution of declared trust, it is vital to realize that it is not simply a matter of duties being cast on trustees and rights on beneficiaries. Trustees will usually have an array of powers in relation to their management of the trust funds. Principal among these are the power to appoint agents, to advance income for the maintenance of infant beneficiaries, and to advance capital to infant beneficiaries with contingent interest. A full account of these should be sought in a more specialist text. I'm going to read that again. A full account of these powers should be sought in more specialist text. Isn't the law of nations a specialist text? I'll continue. Trust for purposes. The trusts so far discussed have all been created in favor of persons. The question which will now be addressed is whether it is possible to dedicate rights to purposes through the use of a trust. One method of dedicating rights to purposes without the use of trust would be to give them to a corporation, which had as its object the desired purposes. Listen to this. This is the money shot. The essential question, however, is whether it can be done without the creation of a new legal person. Oh, y'all don't hear me. The question is whether it can be done without creating a new legal person. At common law, the answer is a simple no. Let me explain this in plain English. Because I told you the board members got a mandate. Hint, hint, wink, wink. You know what that mandate is? Go and look at every entity that supposedly and allegedly have a trust and see whether or not they created a new legal person. I'm going to stop. I'm going too fast. I'm getting scared. I'm scaring myself now. You got to understand that your ability to learn how to use these terminals and do this noting and minuting is going to be the only thing that's going to save these people. Because they want to get a benefit from the oppressor. And they don't want to be responsible. They have a comfort. Mr. Bay, this sounds like it's really complicated. Not when you understand what it's really affiliated with. It's really simple. Slavery is a choice. Why do you think it made such ripples when a particular melanated person coined that phrase? Is slavery a choice? Put your answer in the chat. Is slavery a choice? Because slavery is a choice. When you have gained this asymmetric information and when you attest and jurat, you're literally looking, you're listening to see whether or not that person fully conceives what they really are doing. Because it's not about, I'm about to lose my car, my house, and this, that, and the other. It is really about, do you think it's okay to be a slave? Because last time I checked, it is a natural reaction for any slave when he or she realizes they are enslaved to desire to become free. That's the competency test. That's the Django moment. If I sit here and I got to bend, bring you over kicking and screaming, I ain't going to run from you. I'm just going to walk away. I can't want it more than you. I got too much at stake. I don't have time to waste time. Under the code of Hammurabi, the original commercial code, what exactly does an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth really refer to? What does that refer to? What exactly does an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth really apply towards? Hmm. Hmm. For those of you that might be, it might be a little over your head, just listen to what I said earlier. Didn't I just read to you in the Book of War what you're really in? That's the order. The commercial regime is not in shambles, but there is dissension in the ranks, and there are whispers. And in this dissension and in the ranks, what you're going to learn in this particular publication slash documentary that the student so gladly pointed out, that was produced by Michelle and Barack Obama, is called Leave the World Behind. Something along those lines, something like that. You should be able to find it on a Netflix of sorts. You'll learn what they already have known. You got to understand that information is literally sifted. It's literally given because only certain individuals take certain information and really apply it the right way. Why do we not understand in a larger body of text the fact that the only way there's a huge level of success is that there has to be a massive, meaning over the point of critical mass, an overwhelming amount of individuals blindly consenting. If a massive amount of individuals don't consent, it exposes the illusion. But if a massive psychotic event, a massive event that puts everybody back to sleep, a massive event that tends to bring forth people's perceptions in a way, though emotionally correct, commercially wrong, bears no fruit. See, it's not about I got more money in the bank than you got more money in the bank when the bank is stealing from both of us. And the truth of the matter is, if we're both too stupid, pardon my language, to realize we lent the bank money, we're screwed. Especially if you have a nationality. What do you think is going to be the talking heads point during this election in your melanated community? You already are hearing about reparations, aren't you? Isn't there groups of people popping up everywhere talking about reparations? And how good reparations can be? And let's sign a petition to get these reparations passed. You guys have heard of that in your territory about reparations being a good thing? Is it just in my area that they're talking about that? See, if the oppressor recommends that your restitution be awarded in the form of reparations, then what happens to restitution? What is the difference between restitution and reparation? Or remember, are we still at the watering hole like they did with the PPP? I hear what you're saying, Bazell, but man, I sure can use that fiat. So, hey, we'll figure it out afterwards. We singing that song again? You know how many of our people are facing federal indictments because of this? Do you understand that individuals that are in prison for PPP are bartering deals for them to get out to send the rest of their family down through there? I know it's hard to believe. It's disheartening. I had the arbitration cases to prove it, though. So we have a lot of work to do. These are exciting times to be alive. The glass is not half empty, it's half full. And you have a lot more tools today than you had January 1st. They have to give you more tools because the entire palette is evolving. Let me just share with you what you may not already know about this, since for those of you that are ethical hackers, what you may not know. Am I still sharing the screen? It's my screen. No, it's not sharing. For those of you that are ethical hackers and you've already gotten your quote unquote paid version of Chat GPT, I'm going to share this with you. Have you guys seen this particular website before? Is there anyone in the classes that have seen this website before? Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can see the responses. Yeah, I'll go back. Yeah, I have to go back. Is there anybody that's seen this website before? I got a bunch of no's. If you've never seen this website before, that's because this website wasn't here 30 days ago. How many GPTs have they stored in this website? 67,000. What this means is that individuals who have been dealing in this space has technically created over 67,000 different ways of using this language model. And if you really get the gist of why they are giving you this access, then for those of you that have your paid version of GPT and you're using Burb and other language models, you know what everybody else don't know. It's sort of like if you got gold and silver in your hand and in your private hideaway, you know something that the folks that are buying it in electronic format on the stock exchange don't know. I want you to look at this in that same condition. See, those that quote unquote say they have gold but don't have it physically in their possession, they have a representation of the substance. I want you to look at this GPT scenario in that same light, but we're going to call gold data. One system wants you to use their system the way they have it laid out to exploit and pass along data. I'll even make it more sense to you. I ain't going to tell my age. I already told it once before. But I remember, because I used to be a musician, I'm still am a musician. I remember there was this website that came out called Napster. And I remember Napster allowing you to share the music, meaning I could buy it and then I could share it with 10 of my closest friends. So they would have the music too. They didn't have to go to the music store and buy it. And there was a big uproar about Napster. But then what? What happened from Napster to the day? In America, are people buying music like they used to? Put your hands inside the chat. Are we buying music like we used to? I mean, music is still being made, isn't it? Are we purchasing music like we used to? Does anybody have any idea that if we're not buying music like we used to, well, who is buying music? You have any idea who's buying music? Come on, y'all can do better than that. Don't make me be the old man in the room. What do they do? Who's buying music these days? Corporations. Corporations now buy music. Let me tell you an even sadder fact, but a reality. Most of the artists don't know they can file a UCC-5 and collect royalties every time it's used on YouTube. That's what's disheartening. The percentage that they get off the streams is nothing compared to the rules under intellectual property, because these YouTube platforms are content providers. And if I'm an author and I provide content, I'm allowed a full royalty, not a percentage of one. But remember, reading is fundamental. So did Napster stop the music industry, or it created a new opportunity in the industry? Because when it created a whole new opportunity, the old platform had to be done away with. Remember, artists mainly made their music by going out and what? Performing. So for those of you that have missed that or didn't understand it, that's why some of this information is a little bit hit and miss with you, because you're at another Napster event. Like this Chat GPT is exactly what's happening to your data. It has gone into a capacity where if you understand it now, you can get on the winning edge of it and create your own environment. You wait too much longer, and a decision will already been made for you. The DTCC is the custodian of most commercial paper that's being traded on the major exchanges here in the United States. I'm going to go back to what something Han said. I got it written down, the minute mark. I want you to see if you catch something in this particular presentation that he puts together. And this will be in your Wall Street training, especially for those of you that's getting ready to get your Bloomberg terminal. I'm finna bless you with the entire Wall Street platform. Some of you already got it, like especially the ones that already went to the event, and already expressed certain things. I've already given you the whole 36 video platform. But for others, just bear with me. I want you to catch what Han is putting down about this scenario here. You got to pay attention. He's going to say it. He's going to say it kind of fast, but I think you'll kind of get the gist if you just pay attention. Matter of fact, let me stop the share so it don't get away from us here. I should be able to bring it up. All right. He's going to say it. I got the minute mark right here where I can put when he actually said it. Okay, so I'm going to close it right there. And he says this at this mark right here. Hold on, let me see what
you do as a firm, what you do best. That is your operating proxy for cash flow. This EBITDA is exactly the same as effects of capital structure and leverage. Whereas net income is in 1 year and immediately get cash proceeds. Now, whether or not you may take a loss or a gain on this cash that I have on my books. So what I would do is I would take my excess cash and I will go ahead and purchase a 10-year Treasury bond, a 10-year Treasury bond. And when I purchase this 10-year Treasury bond, I'm going to state on my 10K, I'm going to go as far to say that I intend to hold this to maturity. I'm going to hold to maturity at the end of all 10 years. That is my stated intent. Now, just because the company has a stated intent as of today to hold this to maturity, it doesn't mean they have to, but that's the current intent. Now,
did you catch what Han just said? When you go and pull a 10K filing, corporations can show on a 10K filing the intent, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're going to do. So if I put on my 10K statement, I am holding a 10-year treasury for 10 years, I got a 10-year pass off the tax block with that revenue. Why did I show you this? Because learning is half the battle. Why did I show you this? Because some of your students are going to have access to a Bloomberg terminal and they're going to be able to pull these 10K filings, and then you're going to be able to look at the math to see if what the math versus what they're saying, does it jive? 90%, just like Han is saying, it's just true. 90% of most financials, their income statement and balance sheets don't balance. And I don't know whether to laugh or cry, just like we just said, because I got better information than you, or I got to figure out why this shit don't balance. It's because accounting is connotative. Accounting concepts are connotative, but accounting conventions are denotative. See, I got to look at a balance sheet and the income statement, and when it's out of balance, I got to know enough about commercial conventions to reconcile it. And the only way you're going to know is if you've studied this information. By the way, just to give you some quality with your quantity, this Wall Street training, the classes alone cost over $5,000. Just the videos. And what I'm giving you is the unedited version that became what they're now selling. Why am I showing you what's no longer on the market? So you know where the asymmetric information came from. Because on a new presentation, he doesn't tell you that companies can buy treasuries and hold them on book, even though they mature at 10 years and don't have to do so, because that's something that Fortune 500 companies now practice. Oh, Han's going to give you the business on who he is in the very first video. You don't believe me? Very educated brother now. Watch this.
Module. My name is Hamilton Lin, and I will be walking you through this presentation. Please note that these materials are copyrighted and may not be disseminated or reproduced without the express written approval and consent of Wall Street Training. This accounting course is one of several courses in our basic and fundamental course offerings, as well as courses such as How to Analyze a 10K, Introduction to Finance, as well as Corporate Valuation. We provide financial modeling and valuation training to a variety of corporations, as well as public open enrollment seminars, as well as through our self-study, video-based learning. Our core courses on the financial modeling include basic financial modeling, advanced financial modeling, as well as the more complex concepts of mergers and acquisitions, as well as leveraged buyouts. My name again is Hamilton Lin, and I have a background in investment banking and mergers and acquisitions. I've worked at Goldman Sachs' investment banking research, as well as Bank of America Securities' M&A group, as well as a couple other smaller boutique investment banks, again, all focused on mergers and acquisitions.
All right, so now you have it. A blind man got no business at the card table. And you got to understand this is chess, not checkers. And they use a word game. And it's so subtle that if you think you know what's going on, chances are you don't. There are two distinct definitions of the word debt. Financial analysts have a definition of debt. Accountants have a definition of debt. And there are two different concepts. Your job as a compliance officer is to use one definition to reconcile the other. This is kind of where I stopped this morning, which is fitting at sunset that I end this class today at this point, in hopes that what I've said opens someone up to ask specific questions pertaining to what we are talking about. To conclude, when you read in your private English manual the Trust for Purposes chapter, and you read the Public Purposes chapter, the definition of charity chapter, and we keep going and going, the nominee heads, what you're going to learn is there is asymmetric information hidden so interwovenly within the fabrics of this text. And again, if it's a little too over your head, that's why you got ChatGPT. You can copy and paste that entire chapter and have it rewritten to your specifications. So there's no excuse. I'm telling you, this is a major turning point for most that supposedly and allegedly have trust but have no clue on how to administrate over it. And the mandate that they got is because some folks don't understand that question that was asked. What was the question again? The essential question. This is it right here. You can bookmark this. On 330. On page 857. The essential question, however, is whether it can be done without the creation of a new legal person. At common law, the answer is simply no. So if you got a trust and no new legal person was created, are you in compliance or out of compliance? Put your answer inside the chat. If you got a trust and no new legal entity or no legal new person was created, are you in compliance or are you out of compliance? Remember, as civil law notice, your job is to keep score and correct the records. I'm going to now open up the floor for Q&A. Let's see here. See if I can do this the right way here. I should be able to get some folks into the Q&A space. Q&A is in effect. Press 6 on the pad to see if we can get you in and get some questions answered. Press 6 on your keypad if you got any questions, comments, or concerns over anything we discussed up until this point. All right, I see a brother Jones. I see a Jones in here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Talk to me.
Hopefully, I didn't miss this in the lesson. So, within what you're talking about in terms of creating a new person, what exactly does that mean?
Okay. It depends upon who you are in commerce. So, I'm going to say this as if you're a debtor. The debtor, John Doe, if he creates a trust and calls this trust JD Enterprises, and under the present status of commerce, there isn't an LEI attached to JD Enterprises, then was a new legal entity created.
Okay.
Because if you say it was and you don't have an LEI, see how they gonna get you?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, all right. Any other questions?
That's it for the moment. I'll let somebody else.
All right, all right, all right. Tiffany, you have a question?
Yes, I do. A couple of questions, Dr. Bay. So just following up on the brother's question. So if the LEI was created, but it was created for the straw, that's incorrect.
Well, that means it stands for further correction.
Okay.
You can be halfway there, so it's not bad or good. It just is. We're talking about perfecting the record.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's not all the way around, if it's 300 and not 360, then bring the other 60 degrees and give it an LEI and bring it on. Bring it in.
Well, no, I was saying not the trust. So the debtor has an LEI. You put an LEI on that straw. That's halfway incorrect. You're saying.
That's halfway. You got to do the other side to be on the right side of it, because a new legal person's got to be created. So if a new legal person's been created, that new legal person should have a presence in what?
Commerce.
Okay. There you go. There
you
go.
All right. And
remember, every business has a right to what? Borrow
and loans.
Right.
So you only need one, right? You only need to have one of those that new person to have a LEI.
Right. Like let's say for laughs and giggles, the debtor got a credit card.
Right.
Well, the debtor's concept of the credit card is that American Express gave them credit.
But that's wrong.
And they put supposedly and allegedly fiat into said Bank of America bank account. They lent Bank of America money. So how is it that you're going to recognize American Express lending you money, but you're not recognizing that you lent Bank of America money?
Right. Okay.
Just got to bring it full circle. That's all.
Okay. That's one question. Second question is going on to that about the accountants and the financial analysts. So the accountants use the GAAP, like FASB, the GAAP GAA principles, right? And then financial analysts use convention. Is that the difference?
That's a good way of looking at it. That'll keep you safe.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because as a compliance officer, you're looking for the accounting convention to reconcile against the generally accepted accounting principles. Because most is, remember, that's why the accountants, their definition of debt is different than the financial analyst. So,
correct.
So definitely you want to apply it in that regard.
Okay, I'll give someone else a call. I mean, a chance. I'll digress.
Gotcha. All right. Loving it. Any more questions? Press 6 on the dial. That should bring you in. Any other questions, comments, or concerns over anything we discussed up until this point? Okay, I see someone as anonymous was wanting to know what gets the LEI. I'm not sure on the question. What gets I need a little more clarity. The LEI is usually acquired by the practitioner in commerce. A lot of individuals file UCCs and don't have LEIs. That means some work needs to be done. Is it going to mean that you're totally out of compliance and you got no way of saving yourself? No, it just means you might need to further substantiate depending upon what type of liability that action may have caused. Okay, let me see if I can go to anonymous and maybe just bring them in. Let's see. I'm gonna try to go. Oh, I got quite a few folks that I don't even know which one. That's the problem. I now need. I need a hand raised, like either press 9-4 or I'm gonna go back into the Q&A. If you're on your phone, press 6 to bring you into the Q&A space. On your keypad, that should bring you in. I'm trying to get everybody's questions answered that have them. Okay. I'm going to call the last 4 digits of your phone number, which is going to be 4731. 4731. Can you hear me? 4731. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Okay, cool. About the UCC1 on the royalties, I wanted you to touch on that a little more. I received royalties from, I was in the music industry quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And, that tickled my ear.
Mm-hmm.
You said that.
Okay, so I'll elaborate on the art because that's a real good subject for me as well as a musician. A lot of artists produce works, and because the environment for intellectual property evolved, our concept of royalties and licensing, which supposedly was supposed to evolve, it did. It's just most of us didn't know where to read that new piece of documentation. For example, if you've been doing music before SoundScan, you know ASCAP, CSAC.
Yeah, I'm with CSAC.
BMI. Right. So ASCAP, CSAC, and BMI, we'll say those are the OGs. SoundScan came along when they made this new change with the internet.
Exactly.
And when they made that change in the fine print, you can file a UCC 5 against royalties that are owed to you to do business. Because your works is being what? Used. You produced it. They only can use it if you gave them a license. You have proof that it was used. So there's a royalty, a future royalty that's owed. It's unearned revenue. So a UCC 5 can stand as a certificate of beneficial interest that you can use to buy more music equipment, a studio, whatever the case may be. I'm just saying. I find that amazing, though, that most of us as musicians didn't know that.
Yeah, that is wow.
That's
all you would do.
Yeah, you got to remember, that's why they created the computer algorithm, because the computer algorithm, they're filing this documentation under, YouTube is just the front. There's other institutions. There's like 7 institutions on the YouTube. They're collecting royalties, because we left them on the table.
Wow.
That's why when you put a video up on YouTube and you click on it 10 times, you're going to get 10 advertisements, 10 different advertisements in front of your work.
Right.
Now, let's say your track is 5 minutes. I'm just being gracious. You got a 5-minute track on YouTube. So for that 5-minute segment, every video that they put before it and after it, they spent a minimum of $3,500 for the advertisement, and a portion of that advertising dollars is yours. You just didn't claim it.
That makes sense.
You didn't claim it. So that's why. I won't expose the case, but there's an arbitrated case in international court right now where these labels, they've created international companies, and they're using international companies to rob you blind. They got a case right now that they settled quietly out of court on because they set up an institution across seas that came into this American jurisdiction and claimed royalties on these artists.
Wow.
But,
So we would file the UCC in New York, and we would put as a debtor the say Sony Music, for instance.
Let's say if your music was, let me give you a very specific mock case, and you're gonna pull cases that have precedence in intellectual property, in intellectual property to kind of perfect this. Here's the formula. Grab a shepherdized case that deals with intellectual properties, and then ask your Chat GPT to create you a mock case with this example that you've given me. But I'm going to use a different example to kind of explain it. If you wrote the music in Dallas, Texas, and recorded it in Dallas, Texas, and that music is protected under CSAC, BMI, and all of the other alphabet agencies that you license your music with. If a grocery store in Atlanta, Georgia decides to run your stream in their institution, your UCC will be filed in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Because that institution is using your licensed material, and you don't recall selling them a license. So there's a royalty that's owed, and you're leveraging that royalty because this system of credit can only expect what? Credit.
So what if it's in all, like worldwide? I got
there you go. Every IP address that touched it owes you a royalty.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested to get with you in the private on that.
Definitely, man. That's what I do in my spare time. So definitely get with me, big bro.
Oh, yeah.
Get with me, man.
Okay. And this was Eric talking too, by the way. I know I came up anonymous. I'm traveling, so I'm listening in on the phone.
No worries. I got you, big bro. I got you.
Okay, cool.
All right. Let's see who else we got in here. We got a Howard Bay. Howard Redmond Bay. Can you hear me? Howard Redmond Bay. Can you hear me? Howard Bay, can you hear me? Hello? Okay. I can hear you. I don't think you can hear me. Howard Bay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Talk to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button. I don't have the pressure at this time.
Okay, no worries. All right, we'll move on down the line. Miss Yolanda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Greetings.
Greetings.
In reference to the UCC and our LEI, going in to correct the LEI, if I heard correctly, are we adding our nationality to perfect it?
They have specific fields that you can add additional information. So let me do this to kind of help, because I can't give you legal advice, but I think if I show you one, you may get an idea. Bear with me while I do this.
Okay, I'm just asking from one notary to another.
Gotcha. From a notary to another, your job is to perfect that LEI filing, which if listing private information takes away from the integrity of the estate, then as long as it's recorded in a journal, it'll suffice. Remember, the LEI is for conveyance purposes, but the integrity can be held by the custodian. So as long as, like, let's say, for instance, if you want to be very astute and remain very protected, you only give the public what they need, no more, no less, because the more you give them, the less potent your process is. We kind of think the more we put in the public, the better, and it's the opposite. Notice how they do it with you. They're very vague, aren't they?
Yes.
So that's the secret formula. You gotta say everything and nothing, if that makes sense. You gotta say exactly what it is, no more, no less. And how you do that is you put all of the details into the notary's commercial journal, and then make it and let them know that it'll be made available upon request. Because when they request that pertinent information, they're gonna sign a non-disclosure. So that way, whatever is revealed, they can't use anyway.
Got it.
But from one notary to the other, that's one way of solidifying the situation.
Okay. And you were going to show us something?
I was going to actually show you an example of an LEI, but I don't think I might need to do that now. I think you might got it. You may
Yeah, I
have.
do.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Not from me. Thank
All
you.
right.
Gratitude.
All right. All right. All right. Loving the questions. Loving the questions. Is there any other questions, comments, or concerns over anything we have discussed up until this point? Miss Tiffany, you just raised your hand?
Yes, I did, Dr. Bay. Just going back to the LEI again. So, in order to get your LEI approved or through the system, they ask for you to submit 2 forms of your address to confirm or validate your address. What can you, because this is a new entity, I know you could probably use your CP 575 as one form.
Right.
There something else that you can use, that you can think of, that you can use as a second form to validate this?
An affidavit of residence that's done and then notarized, jurat and submitted.
All right.
All righty. That's it. Oh man, this is wow. Okay.
That was easy. Okay.
That was easy. That'll work. That'll work. All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns of anything we discussed up until this point?
The arbitration, so the arbitration, so these are 2 different lanes, correct?
Correct.
The arbitration is a lane, and the UCC is its own lane, correct?
It's its own lane, but you can you may want to have these as a notary. A good practice is the UCC should be in tandem with other institutions. Like when you're a practitioner, it's not about just making the filing and forget about it. That
Right.
filing's got to be associated with something relevant in commerce.
Okay.
To have sustainability and bankability.
But how does that? So everything needs a UCC. Forget it. That's the bottom line. Everything needs a UCC. Okay.
Right. And remember, you can do non-UCC filings, and those are UCCs that are notary to notary. So don't forget, you got a lot of tools in the toolbox that you can use.
Okay.
All right. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions? Wow, I did a good job. I don't see no hands being raised. Okay. Well, if we have no more, I see somebody come in. They must know I'm going to get ready to drop the mic. Let's see who we got here. Demetrius, can you hear me? Demetrius, can you hear me? Phone's kind of going in and out a little bit. There you go. There you go. Talk to me.
You can hear me now? So
loud and clear.
The GLE, where do you purchase that from?
Well, in let me go here. Watch my screen. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm about to show you. Let's see. Don't panic. I ain't brought it up yet. I'm trying to go here. See if they let me do it. Okay, here we go. All right, so let me just all right, there we go. All right, so now let me show you our filing under Diversity Trust. Okay, got my screen up. All right, this is our filing. Now here's where you want to know where you should be acquiring what they call a GLEI. I can't give you legal advice, but You see that issuer right there? Can you see that?
The UBI Secure.
Yeah. Let's go here. Hold on. Let's see. Let's go. Let's see if they're going to give me a little more intel. Jurisdiction GB. All right. I'm going to have to go backwards. Not giving legal advice, but you see that little symbol right there? Maybe make it bigger so you can see it.
Yeah, because I can't. I'm on my phone right now, so.
You see that right there? That symbol.
LEIS. Yeah.
Yeah. G. Let's see if they got like a contact. Let me see something. Let's just see. I'm curious. Let's just see. And we're doing this for reference purposes. Contact info, maybe. History management. This is. There we go. And this is the format. I think that if you are able to visit this site, there's going to be some information on this site that's going to assist you with LEIs and GLEIs. Matter of fact, my eyes ain't what they used to. Let me bring it up a little bit bigger. Maybe you can see it better than I can.
Yeah, I've been on this site before, and I was looking for it as well. This same exact site.
You see that right there? Global Legal Identity Identifier Foundation. So what may be referred to as a GLEI is governed under the GLEIF. And when you get an LEI number, it's going to also be given a GLEIF profile. Like, I'm going to go backwards into my filing if I can. Matter of fact, since it's going to not let me do what I came here to do, let's go back here. If I put in my information, okay, let's go back. Okay, this is my LEI. These are the ISIN codes. And these are the global IDs.
Okay.
So I think if you acquire one, you will be assigned another. Now, of course, because we're not actively trading on the stock exchange, this S&P Global Company ID is for reference purposes. But if I decided tomorrow to start selling stock on the exchange, well, we have the capability of doing so because of this identity number.
Okay.
Did that kind of help you a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool beans. All right. Loving the questions. Is there any other questions, comments, or concerns of anything we have discussed up until this point? Miss Tiffany, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Coming back at you one more time. Okay. So in saying that, okay, we're creating this new person, and this person does that mean that this person should go into that debtors field inside our UCC? Or
it could. The easiest way to record what you're doing is to record the intent. So I would have a very comprehensive notary record, and then I would make reference to that notary record in those data fields. So I would say see attachment, or in reference to what's on file. If I got a specific bylaw in the trust, I will cite the bylaw of that trust. I would make reference to it without losing the integrity of it. You follow what I'm saying?
No, I don't, because I was creating my UCCs with the debtor as my straw. But if we're supposed to be creating a new person,
you simply acknowledge that new said person was created on the day that the UCC were filed. I mean, that's one way of doing it.
Oh, that the new person is the secure. Okay.
Right. You just got to document it. Like, don't even overcomplicate it. Just simply whatever you think you may need, perfect it on your notary journal. And then, don't give them, when I say them, don't give them more creed and credibility than your own system. As long as it's in your system, that's what matters. Then you make references to it in their system. Let me say the same thing a different way to kind of give you the power of it. Let's say you got this information only in your journal, but you made UCC filings. Well, you can immediately, as a notary, go to a local notary there in Georgia and do a legal notice and do an affidavit in the legal notice that this exists. And if anybody don't rebut, it stands as fact. Now, if it's in the paper and nobody rebuts, there you go.
Okay, got it.
And you didn't lose the integrity. So it's multiple ways of doing it.
Okay. And that manual that you gave us, the CD, the MTN, that's a blueprint for how all this...
Right, how you want to run it through the law firms and various different organizations. And they'll do all the heavy lifting for you. They just need you to put the plan together. They'll run the play if you give them the plan.
Okay. Okay. Gratitude.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's see. We have Sensei Bay, who is in the queue. Talk to me. Can you hear me?
Greetings, brother.
All right. There he is. Boy, the ethers must was speaking. I was like, I was just wondering what was up with you, man. What's good?
Hey, man, I had a question. I was just listening in today, tapping in, man. We stay on this mission, we stay on this journey. So, what I was wondering was, the LEI system that you just was showing earlier, that you say you're not trading on the stock market, but if you needed to, you have everything
necessary to do so.
Right. So I was wondering, is it possible for us to trade value amongst each other to increase our normal balance on our income statement?
You can. The danger is, if you're going to trade securities, there's no halfway of doing it. You do it. The flip side of it is, let's be clear, the road of securities is very defined. It's not vague. It's not gray. If you fall off the road, you will go to jail. Right. So there's certain ways to look at conveyances. I preach M3s and give you the ability that anybody wants an M2 or an M1, they can do so. So when it comes to exchanging commercial energy among yourself, yeah, you can do that all day. Now, here's where it's going to get scary. If these securities, and you use the word treasury, because that's a buzzword, it has dual meaning, and you got to be careful of it. When you say these are treasuries, and you're not active in the stock market, what really are you doing? Not what you're saying anymore. It's not what you say, it's what you do in common determines who you are. So let's start again. You said you are participating in trade, and you made reference to treasuries. Where is your evidence of that? Because if you don't have no evidence of that, but you're in the space, let me tell you what would happen if you were a stockbroker and did that. Well, a stockbroker, as long as you can keep $1 million in the black, he keep his license. Nobody go to jail. Nobody even know what he's doing.
Right.
You do it, and everybody's going to know, and everybody who didn't make good on that investment because you in the ointment and you ain't got on the protective gear, they get to file a claim against you. Mm-hmm. So the easiest way, if you call it a treasury, trade. Buy stock with it. Then if you buy stock, you can do all the stuff you're talking about doing. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, you just have to show that it's
right. You can't come like I'm gonna change the name to protect the innocent. A previous class, beautiful brother. He was in one of my first classes. He was with some young guys like you guys. They wanted to do the conveyances, but didn't want to trade.
Okay.
And got to a point where, yeah, they could extrapolate capital out the system. But I was very leery because I'm like, guys, listen to what you're doing. Because just because you can do something might not be a good idea to do it. Okay, you're going on to the TD Ameritrade website and you're opening up a TD Ameritrade account. Okay? You open up an equity account. Now, these accounts are trade accounts. Get it? Trade accounts.
Trade account.
Now, you doing everything but trading, it's going to get different.
Right, questionable, red flags.
Right, like you're going to, and everybody that's associated with you is going to be red flag because you're moving money in and out of these accounts and you ain't buying no what? Stop. You ain't trading.
Not fueling the economy.
Right. So if you want to do what you just explained, you can do that. Just buy stock. Then it's no problem. Now you got to remember, private conveyances are similar to public conveyances. But if you want to know how trade is done, just simply look how trade is done. Brokers have sponsors. Get it? Okay. Brokers have sponsors.
They're insured.
That broker can sell stock that he don't physically possess. It's called short selling.
Right.
He can actually buy stock that he don't have and sell and don't settle the trade.
Right,
that's short selling. He don't go to jail. They just look at him like, okay.
Okay. From one boat to another.
Right. It's equities. But see, you come into the space with the wrong, it's going to be different. So I'm just to protect the innocent. Like I told the other gentleman that was in a previous class. He said, Mr. Bay, that promissory note that we wrote off with Tim Turner's document, they want it. I was like, of course they do. He said, well, I just thought. I said, yeah, that's what you thought. You just thought it was a piece of paper that you just copied off the internet and it ain't got no value. I said, watch this. If you endorse that promissory note and give it to that market maker, whatever you got on that paper, he going to make 10 times that amount. He can create it out of thin air.
Simple as that. He got your signature on it. He got your autograph.
So, the student was very leery. And to my defense and to my naiveness, I didn't explain it as thorough as I should. That's why I'm very thorough now.
Right.
Because I wanted him to go into trade. I didn't want him to do fraudulent conveyances.
Right.
But he saw a market in fraudulent conveyances. Because I get it. I just don't walk that path. That's all I'm saying.
So that's a simple mistake to make because you think that you're doing it right, but that don't mean that it's right.
Right. If you ain't, that's why if you go back and listen to this recording, I'm giving everybody, like, it's not just about what you're trying to do. It's about what you have done and how does it affect everyone else that's participants in it.
Right.
See, you can do whatever you want as long as you give everybody else a get out of jail free as well. So if you know the admin process is going to create lawful legal money, then create lawful legal money in case these fools don't do the process.
Right. Then report your
Right.
information, do your information returns, and keep it moving.
Right. Like give them lawful legal money and give them a way to make it whatever they want, and then get out of the way. You've done your job at that point. But remember, debtors are used to just handing fiat and they're thinking the transaction is done, and it's not. It's just your condition to think. You see how perfect that is? As long as you never think that you got to do more, they get all the benefit and you get all the liability.
Liability at that point, and they have rights to the claim.
That's why I go back to the beginning of this class where I said, quote, and I quote, you are supposed to be doing a competency test because slaves, listen to me carefully, it is a natural reaction for any slave when they realize they are a slave to make every effort to no longer be enslaved.
So look, brother Bazell, why don't you challenge the class with that? Can you put together a competency test?
Trust me, I've already. The algorithm is well ahead of you. I released an exam of sorts over the weekend and during this Christmas holiday. More is to come. So because the AI is literally listening to everything that's being said and disseminated in the responses, and it creates these exams and tests and quizzes to see who's retaining what. Because it's imperative. See, if accounting is the equivalent of going to war and you're in battle without a gun, without a knife, without a bayonet, without nothing, well, that's going to be a short-lived war. Probably it's going to end like this. You know, you're going to show up with sticks. They're going to show up with guns. And, you know, after a couple of folks around you start dropping, you're going to be like, well, okay, you ain't got to do all that. Let's renegotiate. Yeah, because it's a battle of attrition. And you got to understand, when they have, all right, they are the oppressors. And when you are in their snare, you are a political prisoner. Now, that political prisoner is going to have to fight his way out of that prison. You know, there ain't no warden that's going to come and turn the key, say your time is served, get out. You know, if you led the captivity, you're going to stay in captivity.
Right, he actually hold the keys to his...
Right, exactly. But as long as he thinks it's up to someone else, he'll die in that prison. He'll die in that mental enslavement. So when you're given information that allows you to use the keys to freedom and you refuse, there's a natural law that kicks in. And that's how you have to get to that point. Like the competency test is, all right, you do know that if you don't do something, the decision's already been made for you. You do know that their mandate is to oppress. You do know that every time you go outside in commerce after the 15th of this month, they're taxing you for the air you breathe because you don't have a commercial identity. You're not even considered a human being because on all of these documents that you're professing to be this, that, and the other, the one thing you didn't profess is that you are what? A human being.
An immigrant in a foreign land.
You're sitting there, and so you're behind enemy lines asking the enemy to please cut me some slack. And it's like, no. Now, right, you consented to this. So if you don't want to consent, then stop consenting. But you ain't going to consent and not consent in the same breath. You know, you're wasting my time. You know, so you got to understand, there is a mandate. We're the only territory on the land where it is in documentation that prison is a benefit. To go to jail, to go to prison is a benefit. And some territories, you don't have that luxury. You violate a commercial code, they take you out back. What do you want on your tombstones? What they telling you? And that's the end of that. You ain't getting no store call, none of that stuff. That's where you think you at. They don't do that around there. Because they don't have that. They have their resources is being used differently.
So we want to protect within certain territories with this information, basically.
You got to understand it's commerce. That's why understanding trusteeship is important, but there's obvious rules that they have put. Like, again, that rule that I just read about the declaration of the trustees' powers under the declared trust, that's been around since the 1500s. The early 1500s, that was already documented. So anybody who's saying they have a trust, and again, I'm going to show it back to the class so everybody will get reference to what I'm referring to. We're talking about the essential question, and I'm going to show it to you again so you'll get it. When we make reference to these trusts, and the essential question comes up, the essential question, however, is whether it can be done without the creation of a new legal person. What is he talking about? What can be done? Well, the trusts so far discussed have all been created in favor of persons. The question which will now be addressed is whether it is possible to dedicate rights to purposes through the use of trust. One method of dedicating rights to purposes without the use of trust would be to give them to a corporation which had as its object the desired purpose. So you created a corporation to carry out their effect. Here's the question. The essential question, however, is whether it can be done, meaning can you give it to a corporation without the creation of a new legal person? At common law, the answer is a simple no. And for those of you that are in trustee training, a capital hell no. Because if you cannot demonstrate the new legal person, every bar member today that graduated from a prestigious university in their bar membership for the festive Christian holiday received a memo that Tuesday after Christmas, the fun begins, because they get to unravel, breach every trust where a new legal person was not created. This is how they got us into the Bretton Woods Agreement in the first place. You're at the 100-year anniversary. Matter of fact, when they pulled off the Bretton Woods Agreement, that was done on the 13th of December. The Federal Reserve came in on the December 23rd date. The Federal Reserve slid in under the wire on the 13th. I'm just saying. Any other questions? Any other questions? No more questions, Sensei? You good?
Yeah, I'm good right now, man.
All right, big bro. All right. Demetrius, you got another question for me, man? Demetrius, you got another question? Okay, no more questions. I'll stop share. I got one more. They about to catch me. I'm trying to see before I jump out of here. My ride's gonna be in a minute.
I want to ask a question. I have plenty of them. Okay, so so if you default them and you use the non-UCC, which is notary to notary, what's the best way to collect or to make everyone whole on that one?
Provide a surety, provide an indemnity, provide some sort of bond and insurance that will kick in when performances are deficient. In other words, if everybody performs, no harm, no foul. But if anybody's deficient, they have a right of indemnification that they can exercise. That's how you make everybody whole.
Okay, perfect. And I had one other question. Oh, around the hold on. Let me get it. Give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I lost it.
No worries, no worries. Let me see.
Yeah,
yeah, I think I got one more person trying to get in that.
There's a bunch of people in the chat.
Right. They're in the chat, but I didn't see them in the Q&A, so I'm gonna try to come out of this the other side here. Let's try this. I think I got. Let's see. Empress, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I have a few questions. I came in late, working. My mom is sick, so I had to kind of maneuver some things.
Okay.
So, okay. I saw where you raised up your GLEI number, your information on that, and there was a number that was assigned, but it also had your ISIN numbers as well.
Right.
Were those assigned through the same company? Issued GLEI?
Right.
So they wind up issuing you 4 of them.
Like you can get. Let me explain to you the history of Diversity Holdings Trust. It was a JV. And the sole purpose of setting it up initially was for my European counterpart to create securities. So that was part of the package. I would provide the UCCs, they would provide the filing, and I would end up with GLEIs and ISIN numbers as an end result. Because until I decide to go public, this institution is still private, but we have a commercial presence.
Okay, so you all were doing private business, and then you decided to
create the space.
Part of the business.
Yeah, because they were using the equities off of mortgage-backed securities, so that's why we have those ISINs.
Okay, so they didn't have to apply separately for the ISIN when you get the because I didn't get a GLEI, I got an LEI.
Right, but you're going to have a profile under GLEI if you're in that database. And then there's some other things when you like, for example, when you have your own terminal, you can create a profile. So if you got your LEI, you can make additions through the Bloomberg terminal to perfect it.
Gotcha. Okay, we did discuss it before. Okay, so now with those ISIN numbers and stuff, you can actually move money like an API from ISIN to ISIN, right?
That's why we use an API. That's why I'm stressing everybody get their LEIs and you go LEIs to APIs because that's how the movement is supposed to be done. You got a whole security settlement system already put together.
Okay. So now, and just kind of follow me. I have a series of questions to get to a certain point, so just follow me. Now, remember you said the FDIC lost its accreditation.
Right. This is where TLIC came in. Correct.
Okay. And that was during Comover's
post-COVID. Right.
Post-COVID.
Right.
Okay, so this is where I'm confused. Okay, if they lost their accreditation and I did see an article that said they filed bankruptcy when the United States filed bankruptcy this last time.
Right.
So how would they still quote unquote operate? I'm confused.
Under the Frank and Dodd Act. See, the Frank and Dodd Act bailed them out and bailed you in. And until you start claiming all of these deposits, which are really loans, as what they are, even though they squandered the estate, you're the one that's liable.
Right. And so whenever I claim it, they have to give it back to me because there's no...
They can only give you equity and credit. So you use the security settlement system and move on with your life and barter and trade.
Okay. So the Dodd-Frank Act wasn't new. They just put the Dodd-Frank Act.
The Dodd-Frank Act is your smoking gun that you lent the bank money. So thus, this $250,000 I'm now using for this purpose, that purpose. Go back and listen to this class because we got into a discussion about legal persons and declared trust, which is synonymous with the secured party creditor, constructive trust. It's the same thing. It's just you ain't saying the right verbiage. So commercially, all the stuff you saying, they're like, well, where's your QC? Where's your LEI? All right, bailiff. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Because it's accounting ain't combative. Why are you in the courtroom when you got an LEI and a GLEI? Oh, okay, bailiff.
Okay, so now let me ask you this. Okay, this is getting good. Okay, and I apologize for stringing this on because I was late. I apologize. Okay, so now let's just say I'm bonded, for instance, and I have a bond. I have all the bonds that you could possibly have. When I get that LEI, now I'm with that bond in place. I'm able to move in different spaces. So when I go back and update my information through the terminal, I can put my bond information in there too, which opens up the door for more people to move around with me.
Right. Remember, commerce is a series of equities, bonds, aka insurances, and your ability to be fungible. And fungibility is based upon the liquidity proponent, that as long as the value you're documenting can be liquidated 12 to 18 months, you can use it next business day.
Okay, which is now even more interesting because I read that in the federal code.
Yeah, operating circular or just code?
No, it's in. I'm sure it's in the circular, but it's in the code where I read it, and it clearly said if you have a bond in place, like for instance, if you're claiming your security, so let's just say I'm fooling with AT&T, and I send them a letter. I'm like, hey, I already claimed on my side of the interest, and matter of fact, I'm doing a novation of contract, and now I'm putting you on notice that I'm claiming this up, and I'm going to stamp this with I'm going to stamp this quote unquote security with the stamp you told me to stamp it with. I'm going to pay taxes on it on the back with another stamp. I'm going to send it to you as security, and you have the information, meaning the instruction sheet with it. Now they'll start crediting your quote unquote bill account, right? And now it's security.
Right.
So
you can do that. The long and short of what you're explaining is the commercial system moves value in two different places at the same time. And how you got to get in tandem is you got to move it in two different places at the same time. Like, instead of it, I'm going to move it in two debit accounts because that's how you're rationalizing two different places at the same time. For reconciliation should be if it's a debit, it's going to be a credit somewhere. Right. If it's going to be a credit, it's going to be a debit. It doesn't matter how many. It's the relevancy. It's the intent. In bankability, debt does not exist until it's been on the book for 90 days. So how on earth is debt existing when it don't exist until 90 days in the future?
Well, and that's interesting that you said it because that's kind of the point I'm getting at. It does exist.
In accounting, the definition of debt is one thing. And as a financial analyst, debt is a different definition. But both these definitions are in tandem with each other. You just got to know how to be the balance between the two. Because that's why they write the operating circular, so you know how to operate in that bubble. It's just that people will say debt is this, that, and the third. It's like, okay, great. If it's this, that, and the third, then where are your books that represent that? And then they get what had happened was, I'm just going to claim it. Oh, that ain't going to work because the security settlement system is very clear that, look, if you want equity, track them, monitor them, and solicit them. Now, you're either going to do it with the SEC or you're going to do it privately. What we're saying is, in the SEC, there are rules. We're going to say also, under the New York Convention, where's your rules? Oh, it's the Hague? All right, cool. See, it's rules in the public and private. It's already been articulated.
Right.
And so they have the luxury of not telling you what it is because the Rockefellers are not telling you in accordance with trust bylaw, blah blah blah, this that, because you ain't part of that trust. You're not a fiduciary, and they don't take anything out of the private into the public. So why we believe we got to take our private remedy into the public to get a remedy? Remember, we're at right.
Real. And that's all they need to have questions.
When you're using these systems, accounting is peaceful. It's not adversarial. You're not begging somebody to take your instrument when you're moving value through APIs. It's an open source.
Right. But so, like, for instance, when you were mentioning the whole, it's not a debt or it's not a credit until it's been on the books for 90 days. In that
and GAAP, and GAAP it doesn't exist in GAAP. It exists.
It doesn't matter regardless, because it says if you have a bond, you just send a copy of the bond and they got to operate immediately.
Yeah, remember, they got to operate in circular to leverage that said debit or credit.
Yeah.
That's why current expected credit loss is saying, look, report it. It's a loss. Get a double credit. Keep moving.
Right.
The only people that are standing in the middle of the highway like a deer stuck in headlight is debtors, because they believe something else from somebody else got to happen when they're the change that needs to take place. See, everybody who's debtors, they're waiting on somebody else to get them paperwork. And even in that wisdom, what's stopping the creditor? Because the creditor has a right to borrow and a right to lend. So if you can show me 15 times in your life where you have borrowed and none where you have lent, then you got a lot of work to do, because you're supposed to be lending. And if you lend and borrow at the same time, there ain't no liability. Oh, I said too much? That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on for 1 second. Hold on. All right.
Okay, I think you answered all my questions that I have at the moment. I yield. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's see. I think I got maybe one room for one more question, because my empress just showed up and she's giving me that look like you do understand. So one more question. Let's see. Brother Miles, can you hear me?
Yeah, greetings.
Talk to me.
Man, we're having some difficulties getting the Bloomberg terminal, man. Like, maybe we messed the algorithm up, but they really taking us through some issues. And I was just trying to see if you got any creative ways we can contract with these people, or we just got to buy one or what. But they giving us business.
Here, let's be real clear. I'm going to say it for the record. The easiest way to acquire a Bloomberg terminal is to call, request a demo as a family office, and allow them to run said demo and agree to said contract based upon the credentials that they're going to ask. Now, here's where it's going to get weird. When you fill out your contract and you like, they're asking for this. I don't have that. Now I got to take you back to the first class that I ever did. Michael Bloomberg want to do business with everybody. Unfortunately, he can't and won't, because of the information that we fill out on said application.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there any part of that application that you feel is a problem? Like when
It's
they do
like
due diligence, if you stick in, all right, like I'm gonna say it in the world of business. If you're telling me you're a family office and you ain't got a website, you ain't got no phone numbers, you don't have no presence whatsoever. Now, if you explain you just started last week, then that's different. But you follow where I'm going with it? It's not fair.
right.
If your data never went into the system, that's why you ain't got a terminal. Now, is it that you put it in a terminal and the system said you couldn't get one, or is the person on the other end of the phone giving you the blues?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like the person.
So let's clear things, call things what it is. They ain't put your information in because they don't like you. And there's nothing wrong. Listen to what I'm saying. That's what the problem is. So how do you get Michael Bloomberg and his team to like you? In my professional opinion, everyone who's went down the protocol of applying for a terminal as a practitioner in a family office don't have problems. If you're a sole proprietor, you're an LLC, you're this, you're that, or they ask you about securities license and you stumble and fumble, yeah, they ain't gonna probably not. And it ain't that you can't get one, it's just you ain't passed the sniff test.
It's like they changing the protocol. Like I was telling you, we got a team, so half my team is in Texas and half my team is in Delaware, and they're giving us conflicting information. It's not
because of jurisdiction. So get with the jurisdiction. What jurisdiction is giving you the most favorable terms?
Neither. It's kind of like the same thing. We're kind of running into the same roadblock. It's like it's not.
What roadblock are we running into? Yeah, like
Texas,
tell me what the person is saying versus where we at, so I can kind of.
I wish if you could time Demetrius in, because this was, I'm relaying Texas stuff from a Delaware perspective, but I'm trying to solve the problem because we having a similar problem here. But Demetrius could explain to you exactly what's going on. Like, and they funneled it from the salesperson over to this one guy that maybe is his manager, and the manager saying, "Hey, send your stuff directly to me now." Like, where's the algorithm? Who are you?
Okay, so listen to what I'm about to say. Have we gotten to the part where they've done the demo, or we're still trying to get a demo scheduled?
They did the demo, was actually supposed to send it out, and in that interim is when they start asking for more stuff. How you gonna ask me for my name the second day?
Well, let's back up. They didn't ask you for your name when they started.
I'm just hypothetically again.
I'm trying to figure out what is it that's the problem, because in the aspect of onboarding. Every institution conducts a KYC of sorts. Okay. So, what is the information that they are requesting?
Again, it'd probably be best to get that actual firsthand information if you could chime Demetrius, and I know he's still on the line. And I was raising my hand, and I had to actually get off my device and call in to speak because I couldn't. I guess he wasn't seeing me or whatever. But I know he's still on the line, and he could tell you exactly what they're telling him, and this today, because it changed from yesterday.
Right. I tell you what I'll do is I'll give you the best case scenario of how my last group did it, and everybody pay attention because this is bulletproof from this standpoint.
Okay.
The last group who acquired Bloomberg terminals in my class, they called as a united front. It wasn't one person setting an appointment. It was one person with a group of 5 others. Board of trustee members, there was a settler, and there was a representative of the family office representing the beneficiary. So it's 5 people on the call requesting for a terminal. Okay. Normally the representative said it's going to take a few days, but when 5 individuals called, they did the demo that day.
Okay.
They got their login credentials the next day. Second group who acquired a Bloomberg terminal, their entire family office was represented. So there was the settlor of the trust, there was the trustee of the trust, the beneficiaries were mentioned, and so the individual who conducted that demo took it upon him or herself to make a judgment call and decided that we could not wait around for corporate to establish these accounts because they had said transactions, that needed to be, conveyed. So demo was done next day, credentials was given same day. Now, everybody in between those two institutions that is a one-man show got to do a song and dance to get it done. They didn't get it done. They just had to do more. So it's not that your information is being ping-ponged through the system. It's just you're not holding your lips right when you're talking to these people. And they ain't liking the air that's being in between your us and thumbs and this, that, and the other. That's all it is. Not personal. It's business.
Right. I got you. You answered that question. I had another question kind of slip my mind as you was talking. I was trying to not be rude, but it'll come back to me, man. Thanks. You answered the question.
Roger that. All right. Well, look, I wish I can continue to ask questions, but my inference is going to lynch me if I don't get out of here. So with that being said, I love you guys. I appreciate the time and energy. Look, stay engaged, stay encouraged. As long as you keep doing what you're doing, we ain't going nowhere. With that, I'm going to say peace and love, family. Peace and love.
Peace.
All right.